Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibhiriritam Kalmashapaham Sravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhurida Jana. So before entering into the text of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, as we have already mentioned in the last class, that this class we will start with the meaning of this mantra. It's from the Bhagavatam, which we just now chanted. What's the meaning? Because as this is the mantra which we will be chanting before every class, whenever we have the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we will be chanting. We will be starting the class with the chanting of this mantra. So it will be good to know the meaning of it so that you can relate to the mantra which is being chanted before every class of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So what's this? It's from the Gopi Gita. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what this sloka means? Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam. Katha amrita, the nectar of thy words. Katha is the words, amrita is the nectar. So the nectar of thy words, tapta jivanam. So it revives the scorched spirit of the human being. So in this life, we find that we are as if being scorched. That with all our motivation to enjoy the life, we dive deep into it. And after some time, we find that there is no way out. Like a bee, we came to test the honey and our wings got stuck in the honey. And the life starts scorching us. We find there is no way out as if from this quagmire called this worldly existence. So Kathamrita, we find the words of the divine, the words of the Lord, when he comes and incarnates his life, his teachings, as if revives the scorched spirit of the human beings. So that's what is being indicated by the first line, Tava Kathamritam, Tapta Jivanam, Kavi Bhiri Ritam, Kalmasha Apaham, Kalmasha Apaham. So Kalmasha Apaham, it means that it purifies even all the sins, all our misdeeds. It purifies us. That we as if got tainted by all our worldliness. The words of the gospel purifies the soul, helps us to get rid of all the taints which we have accumulated in the past births. So that's the meaning of the word kalmasha apaham, kalmashapaham. And before that, the word is kabi bhiriritam. So these words are as if the life of the holy person. It's the lifeline. Without that, they cannot stay. They're just the way we need food for our existence. We need air to breathe. Without air, without water, without food, the way we cannot thrive, we cannot survive. In the same way, these are the words which we find that the holy men, without which they cannot live. That has become something essential for them. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, that religion is the basic necessity of human being. It's just like water here. Without that, we cannot live. If you go through the human civilization, you will find in some way or other, we humans somehow prone to adhere to some form of beliefs. So it may be varied, but some form of belief we always adhere to. Sometime in our attempt to get rid of all the beliefs, we create another belief. I shouldn't criticize. It is not a criticism. Very interesting. In the Encyclopedia of Religion, the communism has been considered. This communism has been considered as a religion. Very interesting. The one who tried to decry the religion by saying that religion is the opium of the masses. But at last, we find that it itself has entered into the book of the Encyclopedia of Religion as if a religion, because it has its own belief, it has its own structure, it has its own rituals. So it's what we are indicating is that man cannot stay without some form of religion, some form of belief. It's almost impossible. So this religion has to be there. So, and for the holy person, it becomes almost a lifeline. They cannot think of existing without these gospels in some form or other. So this Kavi Bhiriritam Kalmashapaham Sravana Mangalam. Just to hear it itself is auspicious. Sravana Mangalam. Mangalam means auspicious. Just hearing it is auspicious. And Srimad Atatam. Srimad Atatam means it brings peace. Atatam is Srimad Atatam. It brings, just by hearing, it brings peace in our life. All the so-called anguish, worries, everything goes off. It brings peace in our life. The last line speaks a very interesting thing. Bhuvi grinanti ye bhuridajana. Those who, this deliver, this give, spread the name of the Lord, his life, his teachings, they are the greatest givers. So very nice that we generally have the idea that to give something physical, like the one who is hungry, who is about to die out of hunger, to give food is one of the greatest gift. To give knowledge is the greatest gift. But here they are saying the spiritual gift is the greatest. When you feed someone, his need is just temporarily met. Next day again he will be hungry. But if I give him education, if I teach him cultivation, if I teach him agriculture, yes, that education will help him to develop the skills to get rid of the hunger as if forever. But there is some existential crisis which we all face. Once our physical needs are met, we all feel that the hunger for something which cannot be fulfilled just by the material needs. So that's the hunger. When we search for the meaning of life, we as a human being cannot be satisfied without finding the purpose of life. In some way or other, we have to ask the question. Everything is going on well. Suddenly our near and dear one dies. And we have to halt and stop and say, what's after all the life's meaning is. There is not a single person who won't be becoming a bit reflective at such moments. However, hard atheist he may be. He may declare him to be an atheist. But that brings that speculation in such moments of life. When everything is going well, suddenly we are in some crisis, we lose our near and dear one, then what's the life meant for? The big question comes. So all these, the questions when it comes, the answer is of course there. Those who brings this nourishment in the form of the spiritual knowledge, they are the greatest givers of mankind, humankind. So that's what the meaning of the mantra is. So now just to, it may appear to be poetic, but it actually is speaking something which is extremely rational, that we will try to understand with the help of this mantra. Extremely rational. That tapta jivanam, let us start with that. That we are as if scorched in this life. We have discussed the same ideas in some other context. Let us try to relate with it so that the idea of the mantra becomes very clear. In our life, as long as we are living in this sunset world, the five senses is our world. And sometimes we say there is nothing behind it. I need not uh, go on venturing for something beyond the sensitive pleasures of life. This is the be all and end all of my existence. Most probably I have sufficient skills, I have education, I am flourishing in life, everything is going on well and good. But know it for certain, in this life, we all, today or tomorrow, have to go through some traumatic experience. As we say again and again, that everything was going on smooth, you were on an adventurous journey, and suddenly you see you are on the edge of a precipice. You cannot just move one step ahead. You are as if blocked by a huge wall. You cannot just move forward. And there is no way out. There are various ways we feel it. If I just ask the life story, you will all have a story, I know. As we grow old, we all have to relate in some way or other. We face those inescapable trauma in our life. It may be from our near and dear ones. The one whom I thought my life partner, with whom I started my life, thinking him or her to be this be all and end all of my existence, I find that at each and every step, I have to compromise. That there is so much disparity between the two souls. And the life has as if came to an halt. All the dreams, all the imaginations which you had, they seem to be now just like a palace in the sky. It's just in our scripture, they say, Akasha Kushumavat, this Alika Kalpana. These are all Alika. The world advertises a lot, gives almost nothing. And we were all lured by those advertisements. And we are all come to that inescapable trauma. And from that, this tapta jivanam, this scorch. Why this scorch? That inescapable trauma makes us feel helpless. In the present psychological language, it is called learned helplessness. That how we are helpless? That we, of course, have faced some problems in life which makes us feel that we are helpless. We cannot just get rid of the so-called problems of life. And at last, it ends with a defeatist attitude. All the worldly, you will find that all of us who start with optimism at last end with pessimism. One of the Swamis told me a very nice thing. You know what's the difference between a Swami's life? Because most of the Swamis, when they start their journey in the initial stage, because we are also humans, we most probably was not having that tremendous renunciation. So we go through some identity crisis. And it's quite natural. We all go through that. That whether we have chosen the correct path, the questions come, doubts come. One senior Swami very nicely used to relate whenever these brahmacharis were in such a crisis. He used to say, persevere, continue with this life. You know what's the wonder of this life? As a householder, when you're young, you're very happy. The world is there to give you everything in bounty. As you grow old, you find that you are developing more and more the defeatist attitude, pessimistic attitude, that with all the dreams which you had, as if there's a great wall, it cannot, after your journey a little, you cannot achieve the things which you were dreaming of. It's all closed. You become more and more pessimist. The one who is on the religious journey, spiritual journey, at the beginning, when he has to fight with all these obsessions, it may seem that his identity is in crisis. At the beginning, he appears to be a bit depressed. But as he progresses in life, you will see an old monk, a jovial old monk is a very common sight. The more he grows old, the more he becomes like a small child. He enjoys the life. Some conviction has developed in him, which gives him a tremendous joy, a spontaneous joy. Life becomes something meaningful. What's the difference? Why it happens? The very simple thing. As long as we take this sunset place world as the be all and end all of our existence, know it for certain, at certain point of time, we are bound to go through those inescapable trauma, which is bound to bring that sense of learned helplessness, at last resulting in a defeatist attitude. But those who somehow, for those fortunate ones, in whose life somehow the spiritual dimension has opened up, suddenly they find that meaning, a wonderful meaning coming out of the life. The problems no more remain problems. They find answer to all the so-called the deadlock ends in their life. How it happens? Just that that analogy we have used previously. Again, I will use that if we try to find all the answers in the existing plane of dimension, sometimes the answer is not available there unless you relate to some another dimension of existence. To give an example, if you have been asked to draw exactly 4 triangles by joining 4 points, you may try. Lifelong you may try. You cannot find answer. It is impossible to draw exactly 4 triangles by joining 4 points. Somewhere or other, the 2 lines will intersect to create the 5th point, and not only that, there will be more than 4 triangles. It is impossible. But the answer, there is an answer. What's the answer? The teacher, after asking this question in the class, he himself now gave the answer. When the students couldn't give the answer, he spotted 3 points in the blackboard and asked the student to imagine the 4th point in the space. Now you join the 3 points in the blackboard, you get 1 triangle. From each of the points, just draw an imaginary line to the point in the space. You will get a triangular pyramid with exactly 4 triangular faces. Exactly 4 triangles. A triangular pyramid. So why the students couldn't answer? Because they were trying to search the answer in the 2 dimensions of the page. They never thought of relating to the another dimension. They never took the space, the height into consideration. In our life, unless and until we take the spiritual dimension of our existence into consideration, life is bound to end up with those defeatist attitude resulting from inescapable trauma. And when you may say that how that the spiritual dimension helps us to get the answer. Now, in our day-to-day life, you will find that what's the trait of a defeatist attitude? What's the trait of a pessimist? And in contrast to that, what are the traits of an optimist? You'll find a pessimist, whenever they are in a problem, they think the problem is permanent. As they have developed the defeatist attitude, they never have that sufficient enthusiasm to deal with each and every problem with new enthusiasm. Somehow they have that learned helplessness. I can do nothing. This life is going to be a permanent problem for me. All these problems, as per my relations, as per my work, as per my social interactions, everywhere I find the deadlocks are coming. There's no way out. A defeatist attitude comes. And you think these are the permanent. Somehow I have to live my life with this till the death is there. I have to bear with all of them. There is no answer. And that makes me more and more depressed. But the moment that we relate to this divine dimension, the optimist never takes a problem to be permanent. These are all temporary, passing phase. The moment you relate to the spiritual dimension, whatever may be your religion, whatever may be your belief, immediately, what's the idea that comes? That my existence in this physical plane is not the be-all and end-all my existence. I was, I am, I will be. If I am the truth, The only definition of truth is whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present, future. As the spirit, I am eternal. As a spirit, I am eternal. God is eternal. And my relationship with the divine is just like the spirit in association with the spirit. It's eternal. Nothing can annihilate that. So all the problems of life becomes just a temporary passing phase. So the moment I can relate to that spiritual dimension of existence, so everything becomes temporary. Nothing is permanent. Not only that, a pessimist thinks that all the problems to be all pervasive. To give an example, that in a school, a student most probably is good in all the subjects, but weak in one of the subjects, say mathematics. Now, he's so much worried about his weakness of maths that his worry now starts affecting all the plus points, that he actually is good in all the subjects. His problem, though it is local, now it becomes all pervasive. That's the pessimist. An optimist can keep the problem local. He knows that there are so many other aspects with which I'm quite okay, I'm quite good, I'm quite strong. That out of 100 faculties, 99 I am strong, only one faculty is weak. Why to just dwell in that? Let me be just dealing with the life with all those 99 positive faculties. Let me build on strength. Let me overlook the little weaknesses. So that speaks of the optimistic attitude. The moment we relate to the spiritual dimension of existence, what happens? Again, the same thing. All the problems of life becomes limited. It's local. It can never affect the real me. And that way, it can never depress me. I know it's a passing phase. It is annoying me, but it is not going to destroy me. The life becomes just as adventurous as the roller coaster ride. You know, the roller coaster ride is very dangerous. When you are right, but we all enjoy it. We get thrill. Why we get the thrill? That in spite of those sharp rise and sharp down, we know the entire thing has been devised in such a way, and all the precautionary measures has been taken in such a way that in spite of all those sharp ups and downs, I am not going to get injured or harmed or going to die. So though it's very dangerous, it thrills me because I know that nothing can annihilate me. The moment we relate to that, or can relate to the spiritual dimension of our existence, the life becomes an expedition. Just like a roller coaster ride, we can enjoy it, all the ups and downs, because we know nothing can annihilate me. I am that eternal existence. Always I am in association with the divine. Life is a passing phase. God has kept me. I don't know what the purpose is. God is much bigger than life. With my limited mind, with my limited intellect, it is almost impossible to decipher that why I am passing through it. But yes, whatever may be the reason, it is just a passing phase. I am in eternal association with the divine. So the moment that when you read the gospel, when you read the spiritual katha, there's all the divine incarnations, life, the teachings, that's the dimension which opens up. And that's the reason that tapta jivanam, that you're scorching in this life. So that you get revived, you're rejuvenated, you find an answer to all the so-called inescapable trauma, which are bound to exist as long as we are limiting our vision. We are just limiting our vision only to this sunset plane of existence. So now we will understand that how nicely it's mentioned. Just by hearing, your sadhana may start later. Just by hearing, suddenly you find a new portal has opened up. You were thinking that you are as if in the brink of annihilation, and then you find nothing can kill you, nothing can annihilate you. and nothing can affect you in any way. You actually transcend everything as a spirit, and nothing can touch you. You are the eternal soul. You in no way the dualities of life can affect you. So that's how there's the Kathamrita just revives us, rejuvenates us from this, all this, from the scorched, revives us, the scorched, those who are scorching with all the inescapable traumas in our life. So that's the idea behind Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam, Kavi Bhiriritam. So now you will find all are linked. It becomes the lifeline of the holy person, the one who becomes aware of that spiritual dimension. Now he's bound to be holy. Why? The moment that dimension opens up, you get lured to it. And the more you go towards the east, the west is bound to fall behind. You cannot force the west out. Just you can push the west. The only way you can get rid of the west, go towards the east. As the spiritual dimension, this new portal opens up, the more you go towards that, the west automatically falls behind. So you automatically get rid of kalmasha, and this awareness becomes your lifeline, without which you can never think of your real existence. So that's why it is Kavi Bhiriritam, Kalmasha Apaham, Sravana Mangalam, Sri Madatatam. It brings peace. Just by hearing, it brings auspiciousness. How the auspiciousness come? Once you are aware of that spiritual dimension of existence by listening to the gospel, you become aware of that. You develop all positive emotions. Your life is no more narrowed by the sensate indulgence. When we are sensually enjoying the world, we are so narrowed, we are extremely selfish. Nothing matters except my own enjoyment. We have a very narrow vision, very myopic vision. The moment the spiritual dimension, you get just aware of it, immediately you start relating to the entire existence as if you are relating with the divine. Your ego starts falling off. You start developing that positive emotion. Your vision broadens, and you build your life on that broadened vision. So you broaden and build on that. And from that, what comes? That the real love ensues. And when the real love ensues, everything is auspicious now. You become the cause of auspiciousness. You become the cause of peace, because it is the love which ensues from you. The love in Sanskrit is called prema. And this prema in the present positive psychology is used as an acronym, where P stands for positive emotions. When you can relate to that spiritual dimension of existence, you are bound to have these positive emotions now. You get rid of the worries, the tensions. You first, there's all the positive emotions. You become carefree. With the positive emotions, what's the next thing? Your relationship starts improving. If you are careworn, if you are tensed, if you are worried, how can you think of bringing peace to the world? Your relations get spoiled first because you are tensed. It is you who are first inflicted, and then only you inflict others with your worries. So when your perspective gets broadened, the relationships improved. PR. E. E speaks of that relationship is no more a superfluous relationship. In the present world, when we are moving headlong to the sensate pleasures of life, we do have relationships, but those relationships are very superfluous. It has no engagement. That E stands for engagement. Unless when you say, I love the flower, you must be watering the plant. If you say, I love flower, but you never water the plant, it's no love. There has to be an engagement. There has to be a sense of responsibility. There has to be a sense of care. That relationship that is very much engaged. And why I'm engaged? Because there's a meaning, there's a purpose. The divine in me is the same divine in you. As Holy Mother used to say, What's the sign of Brahmagyana? When the moment you understand the one who is in you is the same one is in me, the same one is in the lowest of the lowly, then you will know that you have that Purna Jnana. So now your all this engagement has a meaning. You are not just dealing with the relations from the sunset pleasure. You know it is the Lord who is playing in varied forms, and we are dealing with not the so-called the worldly existence. We are dealing with the Lord who has encapsulated himself in so many forms. I'm actually dealing with the Lord. So it gives a meaning to all my relationships. And from that comes the accomplishment. Then what's the accomplishment? You find that your own life have started just evolving as per the spirituality is concerned. And not only that, you become as if the center point, the nodal point for everyone else's happiness. So what happens? That this results, the moment you relate to that spiritual dimension through that Kathamrita, first your own, that's the scorching soul, that gets revived. And then you find that this is the lifeline. All the tarnishes getting purified. It gets cleansed off. And now you become a source of prema, love. And that results in what? That auspiciousness, peace. You bring peace to the world. And now you will understand why the last line says that Bhuvi Grinanti Bhurida Jana. The one who gives this gift of spiritual knowledge. What a wonderful gift. It is much greater than just feeding a person who is hungry. His hunger will come back. Because just by teaching him some skills that will take care of the physical needs. But what about our mental needs? We forget that our life is that very just small percentage of our life is in the physical plane. Most of our life is in the mental plane. If I just think at the time of lockdown, why we are getting depressed. At house, all the modern science has given you all the amenities that it can give. And they are all there in the house. In the winter, you have wonderful heating system. You have for entertainment, you have your channels. All the amenities you are having, good food. But that is just so small part of our life. And then we find when we cannot move out, that I am so pitiable as per my mind is concerned. That's why in the present day, it is still that social engagement is a must for our mental well-being, because we cannot relate to that another dimension of existence. And that's why we are not swastha. The word swastha means one who dwells in himself. We can never dwell because we need some hole to hide our face. We are constantly, this worries, tension, fear of death, this ephemeral life are the fears which is constantly chasing us. And like a rabbit, when we are chased by the predator, we just go and just hide our face in a hole. And when the rabbit hides its face in the hole, it cannot see the predator and it thinks it is safe. And all our social engagements are like that rabbit hiding our face in the hole. And that's just a patchwork by which somehow we can maintain our mental health for the time being. It can never give me the final answer. That though I may be hiding my face with all the social engagements, all the worries, tensions are there, lurking behind. If I am not seeing them for the time being, they are seeing me. They're constantly chasing me. There is no way out unless I really think of answering the problems of life by relating to that spiritual dimension. So those who gave me that knowledge, that's the most wonderful gift we can think of. The man's biggest problem is the search for meaning. There's a wonderful book, Man's Search for Meaning, written by Viktor E. Frankl. Viktor E. Frankl was one of the inmates of the concentration camp of Hitler in the Second World War. He went through horrible experience. Everywhere seeing death, torture to the extreme degree, all inhumanities that we cannot even imagine. And he came out from that, though he was physically emaciated, almost skin and bones, but somehow he could maintain his wits. You know, those who came out from the concentration camps, so many have died, but those who came out, about 80 to 90% of them lost their wits. They were almost half mad. They couldn't, because that inescapable trauma that made them almost that deranged. Viktor Frankl not only came back, after that he started his own psychotherapy, and he named it Logotherapy. It's a wonderful thing that he's told that all the cause of our mental psychological problem is if you don't have a meaning, a purpose of life. That's the logo. That's the meaning. You know, the company has a logo. That logo speaks of the purpose, the aims, the goals that an organization has. So each one of us must have a logo. And once a person is depressed, if you can somehow give him a purpose of living, a meaning, you will find that he is now getting psychologically revived, rejuvenated. And that's what this Kathamrita does. And now you will find what a wonderful mantra it is, which we will be repeating every day before the class starts. So with this, now let us proceed. Let us just take up a portion of the text as much as possible today. We will just start entering into the text of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The very first chapter, the Master and Disciple. The date is not mentioned. It's somewhere in February 1882. So let us just read the text and gradually we will come to the discussion. It's a wonderful book, as we have already mentioned. It's just reading it is contemplation, because as if you will have a feeling that you are in presence of Ramakrishna, in Dakshineshwar, the way he will be describing vividly the background in which Ramakrishna each and every day is present, each and every way is conversing with the devotees. So the background so nicely is describing. He will, as if he is just guiding you, taking you by your hands in the presence of Ramakrishna. And as if you are in his presence, sitting in front of him, listening to the words coming out from his lips, like the nectar, like the Kathamrita. And that's why this is the mantra which we have chosen to chant every day before we study the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So let us now enter into the text. It was on a Sunday in spring, a few days after Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, that M met him the first time. Sri Ramakrishna lived at the Kalibari, the temple garden of Mother Kali, on the bank of the Ganges at Dakshineshwar. M, being at leisure on Sundays, had gone with his friend Sidhu to visit several gardens at Baranagar. As they were walking in Prasanna Banerjee's garden, Sidhu said, "There is a charming place on the bank of the Ganges where a Paramahamsa lives. Should you like to go there?" M assented, and they started immediately for the Dakshineshwar temple garden. They arrived at the main gate at dusk and went straight to Sri Ramakrishna's room. And there they found him seated on a wooden couch facing the east. With a smile on his face, he was talking of God. The room was full of people, all seated on the floor, drinking in his words in deep silence. Now the simile which M is giving is wonderful. M stood there speechless and looked on. It was as if he were standing where all the holy places met, and as if Shukadeva himself were speaking the word of God. As you know, when Parikshit was in Prayopavasana, he knew that only 7 days is remaining for his death. His death is just waiting for him. On the 7th day, he's going to die. And he was in a dilemma. He never knew that what to do in these 7 days. And as a God's gift, suddenly Shukadeva came. Already the many holy person have already assembled there. Shukadeva, Parikshit have asked already the question to them, that what can I do just in 7 days that can render me the spiritual emancipation. So all were in a fix. They never knew what to answer, that in 7 days. And then the Shukadeva comes and he starts relating this Bhagavatam. So that's the context which the Master Mahashaya, is relating to Sri Ramakrishna's Dakshineshwar, that scenario there. He's sitting, the devotees are all sitting around him, and it is as if the Shukadeva is relating the gospel to all the souls who are there, who are there to just absorb, imbibe of what he is speaking. So M stood there speechless and looked on. It was as if he was standing where all the holy places met, and as if Shukadeva himself was speaking the word of God, or as if Sri Chaitanya was singing the name and glories of the Lord in Puri with Ramananda Swarup and other devotees. Now comes Sri Ramakrishna's words. The very first word speaks of the entire gamut of spirituality. The entire gamut. Let's just enter. The very first words. That's the beauty of the words of Ramakrishna. Each and every, his words are like mantra. Mantra means mananat trayate iti mantra. If you just go on reflecting on it, you will find it can just deliver you. It can emancipate you from all the limited ways of thinking. So what's Ramakrishna said, as the master is hearing for the first time, when hearing the name of Hari or Rama once, you shed tears and your hair stands on end, as you get horripilation, then you may know for certain that you do not have to perform such devotions as the Sandhya anymore. Then only will you have a right to renounce rituals, or rather rituals will drop away of themselves. Then it will be enough if you repeat only the name of Rama or Hari, or even simply Om. Continuing, he said, the Sandhya merges in the Gayatri, and the Gayatri merges in Om. So these words are very simple, but it's very profound. He's actually speaking of the entire gamut of our spiritual journey. What he's saying, that yes, at the beginning, that when we start our spiritual journey, all the paraphernalia is quite okay in the form of rituals. It do help us. How it helps us? That what's the basic idea behind the rituals? There are two basic ideas. One is Atmavat Deva Sevanam. That whatever you like, offer it to the divine. That's the thing. That sometimes we feel whether I should offer this or that, they say whatever you like, that you offer. What happens? Suppose the first fruit which came in a particular season, I go to the shop and just buy it. Instead of just eating it directly, first offer it to the divine and eat it as a consecrated food, as if it has been consecrated. What happens then? That all your attachments, all your so-called worldly attachments is getting consecrated, sublimated. The same, that food which I like now has become the consecrated food. The thing which I like, that's only I'm taking. But now the thought of Lord has entered into my desire. My desire is still there. It has not fallen off. But in that, holding on to that desire, the Lord has entered there. As when you are taking it, you're taking the thing which you cherish most, but at the same time, it has done a wonderful thing. You're thinking of the Lord. I still remember, as a brahmachari, one of the brahmachari related me a wonderful story that he was asked to do the regular ritualistic worship. And now he found that in the ritualistic worship, so many things are used. He read that the life of Ramakrishna was a renunciate of the highest degree. But while doing his puja, we use some, scent, some essence as gandha, this as flowers, scent. So these are the things which this brahmachari found to be distracting. He came and related that while doing puja, when I use the scent, it makes me think of my past. How? That when I was at my home, during my sister's wedding ceremony, it was a social gathering. Everyone used that perfume. And this smell of this perfume makes me think of that social gathering. It's a distraction. Ramakrishna is is a renunciate. Why should we use all this thing? The senior monk told, see, these are the practices we do. I am not going to explain you all those things. We have not not invited you to come and become a monk. It is you who have chosen. And this is the way we follow. If you find it's quite compatible for you, you stay. Otherwise, you can leave. It was quite harsh reply. But this brahmachari, though he couldn't get the proper answer, he himself found the answer. What the answer was? Few months passed. As he was almost forced to use all those perfumes he was using. Now, few months passed, he himself went for shopping for purchasing some puja items. He went to the market for shopping, and he was passing through the busy streets of the market. There was a perfume shop, and the smell was coming naturally. When the perfume shop passed by the perfume shop, it has a wonderful, that fragrance of the scent of all the perfumes comes. And now he's saying that in that noisy market, that busy place, in that humdrum, suddenly that smell of the perfume made my mind calm, because now it has got associated with my regular worship. So this is one of the beautiful characteristics of ritual. In ritual, what I'm doing, I am worshipping with all the things which I do, as if I am bathing the god. And in Durga Puja, they use so many items for that Mahasnana, which actually speaks of all the items which we use in our day-to-day life. So after the puja, all those gets associated with the divine. Whatever you see, even the food which you are going to cook, that rice, everything gets permeated, associated with the divine. And that's how you very spontaneously, naturally, with all the things you see in the life, the thought of the divine gets linked. In Durga Puja, it's very interesting. They even use the soil of the place of ill repute, where the prostitutes stay. They will take the soil of that as one of the ingredient for the Devi's bathing. The idea is same, that when I am dealing with the day-to-day life, I cannot close my eyes and ears. I have to pass through the street. Maybe I am passing through the place of ill repute, and immediately my mind is bound to get polluted. I cannot avoid it. See, a wonderful thing by the rituals has happened. Now, instead of our mind getting polluted, immediately the thought will come. This is the soil which is used for mother's worship. And you immediately, if you're really a sincere, ardent, ritualistic devotee, your mind now gets associated with the divine. Even in that situation, you find it's the holiness and holiness alone which is dawning in your mind. So that's how you constantly get refined. In all your perceptions, in all your thoughts, the background, the divine thought is always there. That's how, in one way, the ritual serves. It's Atmavat Deva Sevanam. And another thing is Devam Bhutva Devam Vyajat. In the ritualistic worship, before you start worshiping, first is your own inner cleansing. That you have to visualize that this physical body has burnt off. In place, a spiritual body has come. And that spiritual body, which is pure spirit, that is the one which is worshiping the spirit. It is the worship of the spirit by the spirit, as has been spoken in the Bible. The same idea is here. Atmavat, Deva Sevanam is the first. Second is Devam Bhutva. You yourself have to become the spirit. Devam Yajet, for worshiping the spirit. And that way, you are more and more getting attuned to the spiritual dimension of your existence. You are getting identified with that. And when this thing happens, what happens now naturally, as you proceed with your ritualistic, elaborate ritualistic spiritual journey with the rituals, a time will come where your mind have totally changed. Your thoughts are now constantly tuned to the divine. Now these rituals, even if it fall off, there is no harm, because your mind has now already got attuned to the divine. And once it gets attuned to the divine, a wonderful thing happens now. You start developing the love for the thought. Emotion develops. How it happens in this life, as we have told so many times, that out of necessity, when you do a thing again and again, at last a path is created in our mind. It's called the neuroplasticity. When we traverse the path again and again, a path is as if created in our mind. Now we forget the necessity. Just doing it becomes our obsession. We like it. Our emotions get involved in it. Everything, all the things which we find is cause of our bondage is actually necessity. In the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, again and again you will find Sri Ramakrishna is saying, Kamini Kanchan Maya, that lust and gold is Maya, is the cause of all our bondage. But just think, can we live without this too? The nature cannot propagate without lust. We cannot sustain without wealth. They're necessity. But because of our pursuit for this lust and wealth, for lives together, ages after ages, it has become as if a deeply grooved road in our mind. And we have got obsessed by them. And what has happened? Every day you open the newspaper, any crime at last boils down to either this lust or gold, nothing else. What has happened? The necessity has become an obsession. All your emotions has got involved in it. It was actually a necessity. So here what I'm doing, this divine love for the divine is just like a thorn has pierced you. While passing through a forest, there is a thorny bush, a thorn has pierced, that you have stamped over the bush, a thorn has pierced you. So now to get rid of the thorn, what you do? You pluck out another thorn from the same thorn bush, and with that, you prick out the thorn which has pierced you, isn't it? And once I have done, I throw away both the thorns. They are no more needed. This devotion is the second thorn, which will be helping me to get rid of all other thorns. You may say, why? In my present life, if I have developed love for something, and then I again develop love for something else, they coexist. Here also with devotion, all other things are supposed to coexist, you may say, but it never happens. Once you develop love for this sublime spiritual truth, all other love, all other inordinate attachment starts falling off, because these two attachments are qualitatively different. What's the qualitative difference? All the inordinate attachments which I have developed in the process of my biological evolution, our obsessions at last can be boiled down to three obsessions. What are they? Putraishana, your desire for progeny; Vittaishana, desire for wealth; and Yashaishana or Lokaishana, desire for name and fame. These are the three. All these ashanas, these three ashanas, for fulfillment of these three desires, you have to depend on something external. Wealth is something external. Putraishana, of course, you have to depend on something external. Yashaishana, you have to depend on something external. You have to develop, accrue wealth, get some position in life. It's all something which you have to achieve, which is not with you, have to achieve. As a result, what happens? There are two things. Till I haven't achieved them, there is tension. I may not get it. As a student, I was studying with all the ambitions. I may not, most probably I had some ambition to enter into some professional course. The fear was there. I may not get through it. Once you are there, then again that another fear comes. What that? I may lose it. All the relations, our wealth, Once I get it, I may lose it. So all our ashanas are linked with fear, worries, tensions. For the first time, you have developed a love which no one can take away from you. You sit down, you just meditate, all the worries you forget, you just start enjoying the contemplation in which you are in communing as if with the divine. No one, nothing can take you away from you. And that's the result. What happened? This is an attachment which is in no way linked with the worries and tensions. Either while achieving it, I know that I am bound to achieve it. If I pursue it with my purity, patience, perseverance, the more and more the mind's groove is formed, the love emotions is bound to develop today or tomorrow. And once it develops, it will increase. There is no question of losing it. Because the more I practice, the more more deeper will be the groove in my mind, the more intense will be my love and all the emotions related to it, the bhavas related to it. So you have created a love for something sublime, which is so qualitatively different from the others are bound to follow. You may know why? But this thing which you have developed, it is something like constructing a freeway. Previously, all my desires, as it depended on something external, I was always in the crossroads. My desire was clashing with the others. I was always in the crossroads. There was turmoil, there was tension. Here I have created a desire which in no way is in crossroads with others. As if I have created a freeway, there is no junction. Once there is a freeway, should I ever go back again to that the road where there are all crisscross, all the traffics? I will avoid. So once you have created this freeway in your mind through your devotion, all the roads starts falling off. You develop a natural tendency to avoid them, now to go to this freeway, and those roads starts falling off. And the more you traverse, the more the road gets deepened, the groove is more deepened, the more is your love. And the more the love is there, the more your mind gets focused. The more the mind gets focused, very interesting thing happens. All the rituals, the name, the lila, all those things appears to be too superfluous, because my mind gets so focused that my mind now needs a very much narrower and narrower bandwidth to remain intensely focused. So all those paraphernalia starts falling off. At the beginning, they were quite helpful. All to keep my mind away from the worldly desires, the rituals, the contemplation on the lila of the divine plays of their life. They were quite extensive, that we had to study a lot. So many things were involved. They were quite okay. But as my mind gets now intensely absorbed in the name of the divine, the name has become, in the name, all the ideas has got encoded. I now need not have to think of them separately. They have got, so the more the mind now, the bandwidth as if reduces, it wants to be focused in that name alone. The other thing starts falling off. That's why very nicely it has been, Ramakrishna is saying that the more your mind gets absorbed, what happens? The Sandhya marches in the Gayatri. Sandhya is the rituals. When a Brahmin gets initiated in the Gayatri Mantra, he has to do some rituals. Along with that, he has to chant the Gayatri. And that Gayatri starts with Omkara. So Ramakrishna, how nicely is saying that Sandhya marches in the Gayatri. The more you get absorbed, the rituals falls off. Your Gayatri chanting becomes spontaneous. Still, when your mind gets more focused, the Gayatri Mantra is quite big. It has 3 lines each of 8 syllables. So it's a quite big, this mantra. It falls off. Only the Omkara with which it starts. It's a very wonderful thing. You will find what in Hinduism, whatever faith you may belong, whatever may be your Ishta. When you are initiated, the Ishta mantra is always associated with the pranava, Om. The idea is that at last, when your mind gets intensely absorbed, it becomes difficult to even keep the mind in the entire name. At last, it has to hold on to something. For that Omkara is there, that Anahata Dhvani, that unadulterated sound. In that holding just onto that, the mind can go deep into contemplation. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. That's the elaborate rituals at last merges in Gayatri. The Gayatri merges in Om. This ultimately can take you to the ultimate, the spiritual absorption of Samadhi. So just see that in these few words, Sri Ramakrishna is actually taking you from the very beginning to the ultimate point of your spiritual journey in these few words. So just see how these mantras may appear to be simple, but so profound. So let us read it again. And with this, we will stop our discussion today. We'll continue again in the next class. Sri Ramakrishna said, when hearing the name of Hari or Rama once, you shed tears and your hair stands on end, then you may know for certain that you do not have to perform such devotions as the Sandhya anymore. Then only will you have a right to renounce rituals, or rather, rituals will drop away of themselves. Just the way when you have a scab over your wound, if you try to pull it out, it will lacerate. Renunciation cannot be forcefully done. It has to heal and fall off automatically. That's what he's saying. By your devotion, all the scabs of worldliness at last falls off automatically. The Sandhya merges in the Gayatri merges in the Omkara. Or what he's saying is the rituals will drop away of themselves. Then it will be enough if you repeat only the name of Rama or Hari or even simply Om. Continuing, he said, the Sandhya merges in the Gayatri, and the Gayatri merges in Om. So with this, we stop our discussion. We will continue with the gospel in the succeeding classes. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.